Kesubos. Kesubos, we have Yud Gimel Daled.
Yes.
If one claims vessels of oil from another and he admits to the vessels, Adman says since he has admitted to part of the claim, he must swear. The Chachamim, however, say this is not an admission of the same kind as the claim. Said Rav Hamil, I approve of Adman's view. If one stipulated to give money to his son-in-law and subsequently reneged, he should sit and she should sit and wait till her hair turns white. That's wrong. She should sit and wait until her hair turns white. Adman says she can say, had I stipulated for myself, I would sit until my hair turns white. Now that my father has stipulated for me, what can I do? Either marry me or divorce me, said Rabbi Gamaliel. I approve of Adman's view. If one contests the ownership of a field and he is signed on as a witness, Adman says he can say the second one is amenable to me. The first one is more powerful than he. The sages, however, say he has lost his right. If he made his boundary mark for another, he has lost his right. Okay.
Okay. More famous statements of Admon. Mi shehalach lemedina sayam. So a guy goes overseas for avda derech sadehu, and his field, and he had a field that was entirely surrounded by somebody else's field. Okay. Um, and now he comes back, and now he can't find where his path was to get to his back to his property. And the guy of the surrounding field says, "Look, I don't want you walking through my property. If you can prove where your path was, that's great. But I'm not giving up on my rights." Okay, so what is the um, so what does he do? Admon omer yelech b'kitzara. So let him find the shortest distance to his property, and let him and that will become his rite of passage. Everyone agrees that he used to have a rite of passage, so at least give him this. V'chachamim omrim yikne lo derech b'maya maneh. He does not have any rights to anything. Let him negotiate with the owner of the outer field to sell him a right of passage for however much the guy wants to sell it for, or yifrach ba'avir, or let him grow wings and fly through the air to get there. Okay, so now just to put some nuance on this, everyone is in agreement that if there are multiple neighbors who are blocking the way, and he can't remember which one his path went through, then none of them has to cede anything to him. Even Admon agrees with that, that there's nothing there. He can't tell this one to cede property, because he'll say no, but it wasn't through me. It was through the other guy that your path was. I don't want to give you a path. Okay. And even the Chachamim will concede that if there's only one neighbor, and there always was only one neighbor who surrounds him, then sure the path must go through some way. So they agree with Admon on this case. So where do they disagree is in a case where there used to be two neighbors surrounding him, and one of them bought the other one out.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Okay, while one of them bought the other one out, or um, while the guy was overseas. Okay. So he comes back, can't find his path, and he says, "Listen, you're only one neighbor. Give me a piece of path." And Atman says, "Yeah, he's right. You have to give him a piece of path. You're only one neighbor. The path goes somewhere through your property, so you have to give it over." The Chachamim disagree because they say that the owner of the outer field can say, "Look, I will destroy my deed of sale to the other guy, and he'll be able to come back and take over the property, and then you'll have no recourse." Even Admon will agree that there's no recourse if you've got two guys who've got properties, because each one will push off his claim to the other one. So that's the basis of the disagreement. Anyway, on to Ches. Hamotzi shtar chov al chavero. So Reuven pulls out a shtar chov and it says Shimon owes him money. V'hala hotzi shem machar lo es hasadeh. And Shimon says, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa. You sold me a field. I paid you money for the field, right?" And there's the shtar chov, and it says like if you Admon omer yachol hu yomar ilu hayiti chayev lach hayalach li parasha es shelach kashem acharta li es hasadeh. Then you should have claimed the money back when I bought the field from you, right? You would have added that onto the price and said, "Look, pay me back my loan and before you buy my field." So Admon says that's a good claim from the debtor to say that actually I don't owe you money because you can see I purchased this field from you since the date of your of this loan. The Chachamim אומרים זה היה פיקח שמכר לו את הקרקע. He says no, that was actually a very clever strategy. He didn't trust the debtor, so he sold him a piece of land in order for the land to be security. מפני שהוא יכול למשכנו. Because if he had to come and if he doesn't, he feels like the guy who borrowed the money from him doesn't have any securities, and when he comes to claiming the money from him, he'll hide away all of his property and say, "I'm sorry, I'm bankrupt. I have nothing to my name," and he won't be able to pay back the loan. But now that he's got land, he can use the land as security to claim back the his loan. Okay. And Shnayim shehotziu shtar chov ze al ze. Now two guys, Reuven and Shimon, each come to Beis Din. Each one's got a shtar chov saying you owe me 100, and the other one says you owe me 200. Okay. Admon omer ilu haisi chayev lach ketzad ata love mimeni. So the second guy could come and say, if I still owed you money from that first loan, how is it that you're borrowing money from me? Okay, which means that the admin is going to say he's going to invalidate the first loan document, and the second document is going to be claimable in full. חכמים אומרים, זה גובה שטר חובו וזה גובה שטר חובו. So it's possible that they just, he couldn't find the loan document or whatever when he wanted to borrow the money. So therefore, he just signed on a new document. Therefore, take the two of the documents together, add up the balance, and see who owes who, and we're done. Okay,
Okay. All right.
back to Tesches.
Yes, Kes. If she impairs her kasuba, how? If your kasuba was 1,000 zuz and she says to her, you have received your kasuba, and she says, I have received only 100, she is not paid except with an oath. If one witness testifies against her that it is paid, how? If her kasuba was 1,000 zuz and he said to her, you have received your kasuba, and she says, I have not received it, and one witness testifies against her that it is paid, she is not paid except with an oath. From assigned property, however, how if he sold his property to others and she seeks to be paid by the purchasers, she is not paid except with an oath. From the property of orphans, how if she died and he left his property to orphans and she seeks to be paid by the orphans, she is not paid except with an oath. Or in his absence, how if he went overseas and she seeks to be paid in his absence, she is not paid except with an oath. Reb Shimon says whenever she claims her ketubah, the heirs can impose a oath on her, but if she does not claim her ketubah, the heirs cannot impose an oath on her. If she produced a bill of divorce but not a ketubah, she can collect a ketubah. If she produced a ketubah but not a bill of divorce, she said, my bill of divorce was lost. And he says, my quittance was lost. And similarly, a creditor who produced a note of indebtedness but not a prose bill, these are not paid. Reb Shimon Gamliel says, since the time of danger, a woman can collect a ketubah without a bill of divorce, and a creditor can collect without a prose bill. If she produced two bills of divorce and two ketubahs, she collects two ketubahs and one bill of divorce, or a ketubah with two bills of divorce, or a ketubah, a bill of divorce and a proof of death. She collects no more than one ketubah. For one who divorces his wife and marries her on the condition of the first ketubah, he remarries her. A minor whose father had married him off her ketubah remains valid, for he kept her on that condition. If a man converted together with his wife, her marriage contract remains valid, for he kept her on that condition. If one was married to two wives and he died, the first one takes precedence over the second one, for the first one's heirs take precedence over the second one's heirs. If he married the first one and she died, and he married the second one and he died, the second one and our heirs take precedence over the first one's heirs. Okay.
Just by the way, tomorrow we're going to finish Kesubos and start Nadarim.
All right.
Okay.
Vamos. Okay. Vamos. Test of Yud. If a woman said I was given a yavam and overseas and then she added my husband died and then my yavam, or my yavam died and then my husband, or she is believed. If she and her husband and her yavam went overseas and she said my husband died and then my yavam, or my yavam died and then my husband, she is not believed. Because a woman is not believed to say that her yavam died and says they were married, or that her sister died so that she may enter his household, nor a man believed to say that his brother died so he can perform yubin with his wife, and that his wife died so that he may marry her sister. A woman whose husband and co-wife went overseas and they came and said to her, your husband died, may not marry or be taken in yibum until she knows if her co-wife is pregnant. If she has a mother-in-law, she need not concern herself. However, if she is departed while pregnant, she must concern herself, and Yeshua says she need not consider it. If there were two sisters-in-laws and each one stated, "My husband died," each one is prohibited to marry because of the other's husband. If one had witnesses but the other did not, the one witness is prohibited to marry. Come on. Marry, whereas the one without witnesses is permitted. If one had children but the other one did not, the one with children is permitted to marry, whereas the one without children is prohibited. If they were taken in Yibam and the Yavam died, they are permitted from remarrying. If Elazar says since they were permitted to Yavam, they are permitted to all men.
Okay.
Okay. And Rosh Hashanah.
Let's first finish off first finish Beta and then we start Rosh Hashanah.
Okay. Hey Zion. If one invited guests, they may not partake. They may not take portions with them unless they had given them a possession of their portions for Yom Tov. We may neither water nor slaughter range animals, but we may water and slaughter domestic animals, so they are considered domesticated. Those that passed on the night in the town, range animals that passed the night on the pasture. 100.
Adonai Masechet Beta. Okay. Rosh Hashanah.
Okay, Aleph Aleph. There are four New Year days. On the first of Nisan is the New Year for reckoning the reigns of the Jewish kings and for establishing order of the holidays. On the first of Elul is the New Year for the tithe of animals. As Elazar and Reb Shimon say, it is on the first of Tishrei. On the first of Tishrei is the New Year for reckoning the years, for the sabbatical years, for the Jubilee years, and for the planting of trees and the vegetables. Um, okay, and uh, on the first of Shvat is the New Year for the tree, according to the words of Beit Shammai, Beit Hillel say on the 15th thereof. At fourth juncture of the year, the world is judged. On Pesach, on the grain, for sure, so the fruit of the tree. On Rosh Hashanah, all who walk past the earth pass before him like young sheep. And it is said, who fashions all their hearts together, who understands all the deeds. And on the festival, they are judged for the water.
Okay.
Um,
Masos.
okay. Mine was Daled Gimel. If one takes olives from the vat, he may dip them into salt one by one and eat them. If he salted them and put them
Wait a second. I think we're on Dalad. Yeah.
one may go over the pass with either warm or cold and he's exempt. So Ramea, so says Rebbeah. Reb Eliezer of Zadik declares libel. The sages say with warm he is libel and with cold he is exempt. If one husks barley, he may husk them one by one and eat. If he husks them, put them into his hand, he is liable. If one rubs parched ears of wheat, he may sift them from hand to hand and eat. If he sifted them, put them in a lap, he is liable. If one sowed coriander for seed, its plant is exempt. If he sowed it for the sake of the plant, then both the seed and the plant must be tied. If Elias says in the case of dill, the seed, the plant, and the splint stalks must be tied, and the sages say both seeds and plant are tied together only in the case of pepperwort and aruca. Reb Simon Megamil says the shoots of fenugreek, mustard, and white beans are liable to miser. And Reb Eliezer says from the caper, tithes are given from the stalks, berries, and flowers. Reb Akiva says only the berries are tithe because they constitute the fruit.
Okay. And Ohalos.
Someone who walks through a basic process on stones that he does not cause to move, or on a person or an animal that are very strong, is tahor. However, someone who walks through a basic process on stones that he caused to move, or on a person or an animal that is not strong, is tameh. Someone who walks on the land of the nations on mountains or rocks is tameh. In the sea or on silt is tahor. What is silt? Any place to which the sea rises, it's furry. Someone who purchases a field in Syria near the land of Israel, if the field can be entered while remaining tahor, he is tahor and is obligated in Maishus and Shavias. If he cannot enter the field while remaining tahor, the field is tameh and he is obligated in Maishus and Shavias. And the dwellings of idolaters are tameh. How long must he have remained in the dwelling to require a search? 40 days. The dwelling is tameh even if there is no woman with him. If there is a slave or woman watching him, a search is not required. What do they search? The deep sewers and the putrid waters, Beis Shammai says, even garbage bags and soft earth. Beis Hillel says any place that has a pig, that a pig or a weasel can reach without does not require searching.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to pull out over here.
Okay.
Tomorrow we're starting Nagaim.
Nagayim or Nadorim? I said,
Both
Nagayim.
Nagaim and Nadarim.
Okay, on Nadorim. Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay.